This podcast is proud to be sponsored by Tuvu. Tuvu connects people, families, and communities on their values based social media platform. There's no ads, no explicit content, just fun. Check it out at tuvu.com. Stephanie Mann was abandoned on the streets of Mexico City when she was just 15 years old. Now, as a crime prevention expert, she is dedicated to keeping all kids and teens safe and healthy. Since crime is at an all-time high across America, this episode is so important for moms who care deeply about keeping their kids safe. Stay with us.
You know, I've never really felt comfortable sharing pictures of my kids on social media. Then I found Tuvu, a premium social app with an actual, authentic community. No bots, no one trolling me or my family. Just clean, wholesome content you can trust.
Welcome to the Moms for America podcast. Each week, special guests tackle the issues facing the moms of America today. Discussions include personal stories and advice on how moms can build a strong foundation of faith, family, and freedom in their homes and country. Well, hello there, moms. I'm Debbie Carlitis, your host, and thank you so much for joining us today on the Moms for America podcast, a show inspiring, encouraging, and educating moms in their journey through motherhood. Well, right here at the top of the show, again, I want to officially welcome you, but I want to invite you to like, subscribe, and share. That's like, subscribe, and share. That's how we get our podcasts out, all of our information. So please go ahead and share this podcast and others. We have a great library of podcasts with incredible topics and guests. Share that with the moms in your circles. Also, if you have a topic or feedback on our podcast, would you please email me at podcast@momsforamerica.net. I would love to hear from you. Also, I want to invite all the moms listening. If you are a part of our tribe, if you're in the Moms for America group all across the country, welcome. I'm so glad that you're a part of our sisterhood. If you haven't joined us yet, it's very simple. You go to momsforamerica.us, you sign up for our newsletter, you become a part of our community. We'll communicate with you and share all of our resources, our webinars, our seminars, our blogs, our podcasts, all the information, and helping you raise your kids in this culture in America. Help save America. We are moms uniting all across the country. We are fighting for faith, family, freedom, and the Constitution. Again, please check us out at momsforamerica.us. We would really love to have you in the movement. On to today's program. Stephanie Mann is a renowned advocate for community safety. She has been recognized for her pioneering efforts in establishing the Neighborhood Watch program and in developing initiatives to protect children and teenagers. She's authored 5 books on safety and strengthening families. She's also founded the Safe Kids Now Network. Well, welcome, Stephanie, to the Moms for America podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
Well, first, could we learn a little bit about your family, children, grandkids? What's your family dynamic like? We'd love to know about the other moms.
Oh, well, I'm a mother of 3 and a grandmother of 7.
Nice.
And they're getting pretty grown up now. So yeah, I've got a pretty good family everywhere. I mean, they're mostly in California, but right now I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Okay. Well, grandma is 7. I love that. I heard that's the best thing ever.
It's wonderful. You can send them home.
Yeah, right. You take it for a little bit, spoil them, and then send them back. I get it.
Yes.
All right, let's talk. You're talking about your kids, your family, but really, this all begins with your childhood. You had definitely some challenges in your life growing up. Often, when these experiences like this, which we would call a bad experience, they end up shaping our future, our destiny. We can either, grow and help others and learn and live from them, or we kind of become a victim. You did not become a victim. You became really just trying to help others because there's so many challenges in life with kids, with families. And your situation really laid the groundwork for you to do today's work, which is helping kids stay safe. Start with your story. I know that we teased this in the beginning that you really were abandoned in Mexico City. I just can't even understand or grasp this whole situation. But how did this come about? How did this happen?
Well, I grew up in a family with divorce and alcoholism.
Okay.
And when my mother got divorced, she had a live-in boyfriend, and they decided to take me down to Mexico City to put me in Mexico City College. I should have been a high school sophomore, but they put me in Mexico City College to study both art, which I was pretty good at, and Spanish, because they said I wasn't that great a student. And then they took off and left me there. So they paid for a room, and they gave me some money for a month's rent, and they were gone. That's what
Why?
happened.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking to hear that story. Why would they decide to take you to Mexico? What was did you ever find out this reasoning or just
Well, they
it
said they
seems
were
so
going to,
bizarre.
yeah, well, they said at the time that we were going to move there. And
Oh,
so she looked for, my mother looked for an apartment down there, and the boyfriend, and he was would you believe, a Washington, D.C. politician. And he
mm,
decided that he had to get back to business in Washington, and he needed her to help him with the entertainment and the things that go on in Washington. So there I was, and my sister and brother were older, so they were already out of the household.
wow. Okay, so you get left in Mexico. You didn't know that obviously when they left. Well, right? They didn't say, "Hey, we're never coming back," or "We're not gonna
No,
connect back with you." They said, "Here, we're setting you up." Still 15-year-old. Obviously, there was issues here. And you were just a child, and this was frightful for you. When did you start figuring this out? How did you realize that nobody was coming back, or where do we go
well,
from
they
here?
said they were going to be gone for 2 weeks. So when they didn't return in a month, I really became very concerned. Um, I
Yeah,
mean, I was scared because
sure.
I had a few friends at Mexico City College, and I was studying art and Spanish, so I had some classes to go to. So those were distractions. And but when I finally figured it out, I began to panic, to tell you the truth.
Of course.
Kind of like being maybe a soldier in a foxhole. What do you do when there's nobody to talk to, when you don't have any family? And in Mexico City, they have little churches on the corner of
Mm.
neighborhoods. And I remember getting off the bus from school at Mexico City College, and I thought, well, I remembered, and I was not brought up in a religious family or a church or anything, but I remember my grandmother said to me,
Mm.
if you ever have a problem, you can always call on God. And I thought, well, I got a problem. Uh,
Yeah.
so I went in this little church, and I mean, it was little, probably held 40 people at the most.
Mm.
And I don't remember praying, but I remember sitting there.
Mm.
And to make a long story short, when I came out of the little church, I had a plan. So I began to make some progress once I had this plan in place.
So obviously that was a divine revelation. Something happened in that church where you had this plan. Thankfully, what was your plan?
Well, my plan was,
Or his plan, I should say.
it became my plan because I thought, okay, I can do that. And I talked to, there was a fellow that I knew named Stuart Green. And I was supposed to talk to Stuart. He was much older than I was. He was 21. And I said to Stuart, I've got this problem. And he said, go talk to the Dean of Women at the college and see if she can help you. So that was the beginning of talking to her. But unfortunately, she gave me a lot of information about You can become, until your parents come back, you can become a translator for American tourists here that come all the time to Mexico City College. And as a
Mm.
result of that, I did take on some books. I read about some of the places to see in Mexico City. And as a result of that, I did make some money, and I made a lot more money when I told them my mother and her boyfriend had deserted me in Mexico City. So I got big tips. So, but that didn't help for too long. It lasted about a month. And
Mm.
then I got so sick. And that is what turned my parents around, because the dean of women was very concerned. I was almost on my deathbed
What
because
happened? You got sick from the stress of it, or you
couldn't
contract?
eat. I couldn't function. And this is
No,
what happens to
sure,
children in social isolation. And that's
of
one of the reasons
course,
I'm so concerned about kids today,
right?
because COVID put a lot of kids in that
Yeah,
social isolation. And I know how that
and
feels.
right, you were isolated. You knew that they weren't coming back for you. I mean, how does a child ever deal with that? I mean, how, like you said, you were sick. You were literally sick over it,
Well,
literally.
I was so sick and losing so much weight. I'm not heavy to begin with. And I was like a skeleton at one point. And the dean of women came to my boarding room because the woman tried to get me to leave because I couldn't pay my rent. But of course, once you get sick, she can't very well throw you out. So the dean of women
Mm.
came over and took one look at me, and she said, "Oh my gosh." Now they had to track down my mother and find her. So that's
Mm.
how I got back to the States. And I went into a hospital in San Antonio, Texas for a whole week to recuperate.
So, how long were you there before you were able to get home? And then they tracked your mom down. She came and got you?
Well, she was forced to.
Right.
They said, your daughter is very sick and you better get over here or get down here and take care of her. So anyway, um,
Okay.
she finally showed up. We caught a plane to San Antonio, Texas, changed at the border. And then as a result of that, I was in the hospital for a week.
Okay. So now you come back, you're with your mom brings you back.
Mhm.
Obviously, this was a tense situation with her relationship with you. Where
Mhm.
do you go from this traumatic experience? Now you're back. Now where do you go? Now who's going to take care of you? Who's your support system? Who's your parental guidance?
I still didn't have any. I
Yeah.
refused to go back to Washington, D.C. with her. And I said, "I'm not going back." And
Okay.
so she said, "All right, well, I'll put you." Went to Colorado College for the summer. She put me in Colorado College. And then from there, I went to the University of Arizona and different colleges. And I spent some time at these two different college or four different colleges, made up my high school credits, and graduated from Pasadena City College from high school.
Unreal. Talk about resilient.
Yeah, well,
You
I
had to.
never went back to live with my mother, and she understood it.
Hmm.
And that's what happened.
Did you ever reunite or did you?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
On her deathbed, she apologized to me
Mm.
profusely. And I said, "Mother," she was living with me at the time. She was very sick with, the lung disease. And anyway, as a result of that, she apologized and she said, "I'm so sorry. I should never have left." And I said, I forgave you years ago. Otherwise, I would have been in the same pickle. So forgiveness is incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
And she had not forgiven herself. And so she died of emphysema and of
Mm.
alcoholism. She lived
Wow.
a tough life based on her own choices.
Yeah. Sounds like it was a very tough situation. Her, you, just the whole situation. Well, thank God that you were able to survive all this and really forge a future for yourself. I can't even imagine what that's like. Experiences like this have pushed you to helping other children. And how did you come about that? Did you feel like I need to give back? I need to share? Because how traumatic. I mean, your whole thing is helping children that have been in a traumatic situation or stay away from situations like this or be safe and not get caught up in all of these things that can be so detrimental to their lives, right?
Absolutely. You know, children are fragile in many ways
Yes.
and very strong in other ways. And it's amazing to me the resilience that our children have. And I was fortunate enough to meet an amazing man who was 6 years older than I was. I got married at age 18, and
Wow.
um, he was the most amazing teacher, um, husband I could have. I was blessed,
Yeah.
basically.
Thank God,
And
right.
as a result of that, lived in a wonderful place in California. Um, and when my son was born, I decided that I was going to see what I could do to help because I was so grateful for all the blessings that I had been given. And that led me to um, get involved in my own community. I asked the good Lord, what do you want me to do? And
Mhm.
as a result, you can look at the book, Alternative to Fear, Guidelines for Safer Neighborhoods, which I co-wrote with Shirley Henke. And that was how we, in our community of 17,000 residents, we had a crime wave. We reduced our own crime rate 48% within 2.5 years without
Wow.
a police department. And that book is on the website safekidsnow.com. Anybody can read how we did it.
Let's talk about this situation now because we're talking about crime. Crime is at an all-time high in America, right? The border's open. We don't have any idea who's coming across the border. We've defunded our police. When you go out on a campaign trail or you talk to a mom at the grocery store, everyone is concerned about safety. Everyone is concerned about their kids being safe. People are putting up cameras. You've got people in your neighborhood. You've got a whole influx of new problems and new situations. Um, how do we deal with crime that's out of control? I mean, we're seeing people just steal, shoot. I mean, there's absolutely it's like the Wild Wild West in some places of this country.
Oh, it's very sad to see what's going on today.
Yeah.
I was a crime and violence prevention consultant for 40 years. And I worked in many different police departments, not
Mhm.
only as a consultant, but worked as a coordinator for the county of Contra Costa County. And we organized cities, leaders, to put together crime prevention committees within each town, 27 towns within our county. And we got people involved in actually going out and helping people organize their neighborhoods
Mm.
because it's critical. You're only as safe as your neighborhood is safe. You know, there are only two
Listen, that's so true.
there are only 2.0 police officers for every 1,000 citizens. So they can't possibly keep you safe. It is up to you to take charge of your own neighborhood safety. And we have a free download on
Mhm.
our website, safekidsnow.com, that anybody can get this free download and start working with their own neighbors. I mean, it's nice to know one or two neighbors, but you should know the 5 people this way, the 5 people this way, and the 10 people across the street, and behind you,
Mhm.
because they are the ones that you want them to be on the alert, not just for themselves, but for you too. So
Right.
it's that hard to do.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that because neighborhoods are different than they used to be, right?
Absolutely.
I've got a great neighborhood here where I live and I know, a percentage of my neighbors, But when I grew up, we knew everyone on the block, in the next block, and the next block, and the next
Right.
blocks, right? Because we were out on our bikes, our parents socialized, everybody sat on their front porch. No one was on the TV, nobody was on the screens, nobody was working, at homes, everybody wasn't working. Kids weren't sitting in their basement playing video games. Like the culture has changed.
Very much.
So, right. So crime and watching and understanding the community in your neighborhood is a lost art, and that's what you're trying to revive.
Absolutely. Because neighbors are, small towns have less crime because people know each other, just as you
Mm,
said. So we have to make it a point to get to know our neighbors. And when the fear is so high that people don't want to know their neighbors, they're fearful of whether their neighbor is the problem or not. I would suggest that our cities take a look at hiring and training neighborhood safety experts. These are people that look like the community, that speak the language of the community, that go back out into a neighborhood and get people acquainted. I've done it over and over again, and
mm,
people are so gratified to know who their neighbor is, how they can contribute to the neighborhood, what sort of resources they have, how the grandmothers could possibly babysit your children. Grandmothers are a wonderful resource in the community for a safe house
mm.
if your children come home by themselves. So you really need to get to know the many wonderful neighbors. It's a very small percentage of people that actually commit the crime. If you listen to the news, you'd think everybody was a criminal. My goodness, we're hearing it. It's a steady drumbeat about violence and crime. It's a very small percentage of people that are committing the crime. Yes, there are problems in our community, but
Mhm.
all of us need to take charge of the kids on the block. For example, I met
I remember if we would walk in somebody's grass, you weren't allowed to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just different then. Like you had respect for everyone's property. Everyone was watching. Everybody was kind of parenting all the kids on the block.
right,
And to your point, that's kind of been lost. And I think the children have suffered from that, really.
definitely. I think the children have suffered the most
Yeah.
as a result of our social isolation from each other.
Hmm.
And we have to bring back the neighborhood concern for our kids. And we also
I
need
love
to
that.
empower our own children
Hmm.
because you can't be with your children all the time.
Right.
And mothers are worry about their kids. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
it's called nature. We worry about, will they be safe from going from here to school, getting
Correct.
home? What about the bullies at school? What about the
Right.
bullies in the neighborhood? And to that, I would like to mention something that is critically important for moms. Um, I, I have a chart here, which I think will help mothers. The red is the bully, and the blue is the victim of the bully. And the spiritually centered child is in the center.
Mm,
Now, the bully is not attracted to your centered child. They won't put up with the bully. They'll say, get out of here. Boy will knock him down and say, stop that. Or, I mean, kids that are centered will not put up with a bully.
mm,
Now, if you have a child that is in the
sure.
blue
Yeah.
and can be a victim, the
Hmm.
most important thing you can do is strengthen that child
Absolutely.
because the child that is weak,
The
that
bullies know who to pick on.
that you're sent, the children send a clear message,
Yeah.
pick on me because I'm overly sensitive, I cry easily, I look
Yeah.
scared. So you have to help your children
Hmm.
become strong within themselves. And
Hmm.
as a result of that, I wrote this book, Magical You, because I want parents to know how incredible their kids are. They're little geniuses.
Yeah.
You know, and it's up to us as parents to bring out that genius. They are born with uh, intuition, instincts. They're
Sure.
born with self-protective conscience.
Mm.
They have all kinds of talents. So I'm trying to bring out both empowering your children and creating a safe neighborhood around your children.
So let's stay on the children right now because it is I mean, think about you being abandoned, getting sick, losing your mother, and just all of that. How children are resilient, they are strong, but you also said they're very fragile, which was a beautiful point because you realize kids, they just pick themselves up and just keep going, and you did, even in the midst of all that turmoil, I would call that. Um, Today's society, we have a lot of issues with our kids. We see this all the time. We talk to this at Moms for America all the time. We've got anxiety, we've got depression, we've got fentanyl coming over the border, record numbers. We have social media, which is really, we know, just become so unhealthy for our kids. It's a place where they have created fake worlds. The bullies are the bad girls, the mean girls are at an all-time high there. We just did a show about how kids are becoming too addicted to video games and dropping out of college. So
Mhm.
there's this, all of this stuff, the phone, this pornography, just coming at our children constantly, breaking down their little spirits and their souls. And as parents, we have to protect and guide them. So I would like you to talk to that because I know that resilience is something. Can you teach that to a child? Can
Absolutely.
this is kind of a, an open question, but training them in their self-worth.
Absolutely. Children are very resilient, but you have to give them the tools.
Yeah.
And what are the tools? Well, the tools are, how do I handle my emotions? Some children don't know how to handle their emotions, how to make friends, how to empower themselves.
Right.
So that is the point of what I put in Magical You, and also a parenting book, Empowerment Parenting, How to Raise Resilient Children Who Become Happy, Self-Reliant Adults.
Can you
Uh,
give us some of those points on that one? How do you do that? What are some of your tips?
Okay, there are so many tips really
Yeah.
that you can give your children. For example, um, here's a tip for a parent. Have a listening chair in your kitchen
Mm.
or a stool. Now, you want to build trust and a stronger relationship with your child or children. So when anybody sits in that chair, if one of your kids sits in the chair, everybody has to stop what they're doing and listen. So a child comes home, and this will take some practice, and you have to show them how to do this, because I want to hear what you have to say. If you've had a bad day at school, or things haven't gone right with your best friend,
Mm.
or your brother or sister is
Okay.
driving you crazy, let's talk about it. So sit in the chair and let's hear your side of the story. So you don't give them wisdom, you don't give them advice, but you do ask them probing questions like, how could you have made that situation better?
Mm.
Uh, what's your, how did you contribute to that problem? What do you think you could have done better? So let's help kids solve their own problems. They are amazing
Mm.
problem solvers, but you got to give them a chance
Right.
to think about it.
Right.
And if you run in and try and, for example, if there's a bully going on at school, this,
Right.
this happened to my 6-year-old son when he was in first grade.
Terrifying.
He
Yeah.
came home crying, and he said he wasn't going back to school anymore
Yeah.
because he had this boy that was bothering him and punching him and picking on him.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave him the analogy of Superman. I said, did you have your Superman costume on? And he looked at me like I was crazy. So I explained that Superman could bounce bullets off his chest. And you need to learn how to bounce word bullets off your chest. So he went, okay. So he stopped crying, and I didn't think much about it. He came home crying again. The next week, this Billy's still picking on me. And I said, did you have on your Superman costume? And he said, no, I forgot. So it was about 2 weeks later, he came running home all excited. Now, he had solved his own problem. This is the key to helping kids grow strong within themselves.
Mm.
He came home and of course, I kind of held my breath. I said, well, what did you do? And he said, I told him that if he didn't stop, I was going to punch him in the nose. And I said, and did you? And he said, no, I reported it to the teacher. And I said, well, good for you. That's the way to handle it. So there are ways to help kids figure things out for themselves, but it takes us hearing what the problems are so that we can encourage them.
Correct. What about homes that aren't, there's violence that's happening in homes and abandonment or parents that aren't parenting, and we've got to help those children. I know that is a big passion of yours too. Um, your network does help kids that maybe have a sad situation going on, correct? Similar to what
Absolutely.
happened to you, because I think that's more and more happening. So we've got the moms in the home that are teaching and training and trying to do the very best that they can with those children that they love, and there's a family unit, but they're still dealing with the culture,
Right.
which we've got to train up in our children and build them up in this culture that's trying to tear them down. And then we also have broken homes, broken families, like where you come from, where
Mhm.
it's a sad situation for those children in the home. How can we help them?
Well, we spend $220 million a day on child abuse and neglect in this country.
Wow.
That is absolutely
Hmm.
unacceptable. And we as neighbors have got to take a look around us and see what's
Mhm.
happening to some of the children growing up around us. Do we know these children at all? Do we
Mhm.
even care? I mean, it's one thing for us to do a good job raising our own children, but we really need to support families that are struggling. When I was a crime and violence prevention consultant in Oakland, California, working for the police department, I saw so much abuse of children. I would
Mm.
literally,
Heartbreaking.
oh, I just, and that's one of the reasons I, I put this is about the fifth edition of this book, Empowerment Parenting, because I did it in a notebook type of thing that I gave to homeless people.
Oh, wow.
And I taught it in schools, after school programs. Kids pick up that quickly on how to empower themselves if you give them the tools.
Amen.
And, our children are incredibly smart, uh, but they feel like they're not smart because
Mhm.
we don't enhance their talents. You know, they have the imagination, they have all of these tools within themselves. So it's our job as parents to help cultivate that and
Mhm.
help them find their own talent because they're all geniuses, they're all magical,
Right.
but it's up to us to help bring that out of every child we meet.
I think
How
I wanted to go back to the point that you brought up, though, that as neighbors and friends and family members, we do need to be aware of the other children that are in our circle, because if there is something happening, how do we step in and help? That's what I want to make sure we understand from your perspective.
okay, from my perspective, I taught in an after school class. I encourage people to have their children in after school classes that are helping their kids. Encourage parents to have kids join organizations where there's a coach, um, and a good coach, of course, because kids learn from each other, basically.
Mhm.
And as long as you are helping one child or your children, um, they can also help kids that they know. So give them the tools and say, if you see a problem, talk to your friend,
Mhm.
help them, solve some of
Right.
these issues. Kids are, as I said, very smart and they can help each other a lot. So you put the wisdom into your children and your children will help
Mhm.
each other.
Yeah, we saw a lot of this, just kind of going back to the fact that children are in a lot of sad situations during COVID when everybody went home. A lot of kids were staying in homes that were not safe. School was their escape.
Exactly.
And I don't know, we often don't really think about that. Like, we would never look at you and say, "Oh my gosh, you were abandoned at 15 and you had to survive, you had to build a life on your own." But there is a lot of that now, and I just think that there's a lot of sad stories. So, us as family, friends, and teachers, and moms of kids that maybe I kind of always wonder what's everybody's story that comes into my home or that your kids hang out with. That's what I like to, that's where we can make an impact by helping
Absolutely.
them and being a light to them, whether we bring them to our home or help them in many ways. To think about just people that helped you along your way.
Absolutely. That's why we're here, really, to help each other.
Hmm.
We are here to connect children that are isolated and become loners.
Right.
How many stories have you read about mass shooters? And they
Right.
all have the same thing going on. They sat behind a computer, they were loners, and they only had their television or their computer to talk to. This is very dangerous.
Yeah.
The computer is incredibly dangerous today. I interviewed an FBI agent that he said, I don't even let my children on the computer
Yeah.
unless I know exactly where they are. They put on the parental controls. I would not even give a child an iPhone
Right.
today.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Get a flip phone for them if they need a phone. But an iPhone is full of information that's very detrimental.
Yeah.
We have people that are trying to sexualize your children. Talk
Sure.
to them about sex, because the more sexual relationships young people have at an early age, the less likely they are to bond with one person. This is
Right.
a spiritual connection between two people. You
Yeah.
do not want your children taking sex casually. It's
Yeah.
not casual.
Let's talk about teaching our kids and training them not to become a victim or not to get um, involved in the things that were. But you have to be ahead of it,
You have to.
and then if you're not ahead of it, that's when it's very difficult for the parents because we've talked about this a lot of times on a lot of different ways, same topic, different ways though. But you get the parents that are way ahead of it. They're not doing, they're only doing safe screens in their home. They're not doing phones and tablets. They're having their kids out doing, experiencing, and all that. And then you've got some parents that find that there's a situation and their children have really already become a victim or being victimized, or my gosh, so many horrible things can happen now through this phone. Um, how do we teach our kids to stay away from these and so these crimes against them don't happen?
Well, you have to be, as you say, aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think most parents are very fearful. They're aware that there are dangers on the internet. They do not give a young child one of those computers, little computers.
iPads. Yeah,
Yeah, they get hooked on them.
they sure do.
And it can be, have you seen a child when you take one away, they scream and holler?
Right.
Uh, that's a
Well, the
message.
dopamine, they make it so they're completely addicted to it, becomes their best friend. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah. This is not your best friend. It's your worst enemy. And you really
that's right.
need to take that away from them, get them involved in different activities. I remember I had one daughter that was very shy. So I got her involved in a dance class or getting her in get sports, anything to help them
Yes.
how to teamwork and how to work with other children. And children that are overly aggressive, a bully, I
Yeah.
have a bully in my family too. So you have to put the clamps on them and you have to make sure that they find their spiritual center and
Mhm.
not be a bully or a victim. So it's up to you to help your children become spiritually centered within themselves. And one of the things I would suggest is that you take a child to church,
Yes. That's right.
synagogue, because that is where that's why we had peaceful communities years ago. It's because children learned if you can't teach them, you need somebody to help you teach them. And that is where the church comes in. That's where the synagogue comes in, because they teach kids right from wrong. And believe me, I have seen too many parents very upset because their kid made some really bad choices.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
don't want to be in that pickle when they're a teenager. So you got to start early,
Mhm.
and then you've got to be consistent.
Absolutely, consistency, and that's when it's tough, because when you're parenting and it's a tough situation, it's easy to give up, but parenting is 24/7, every second, every moment, every day, and,
And let me say this, it is so rewarding
amen.
if you put the time and effort in on your children. They
Yeah.
will pay huge dividends, I promise you. My kids have been a wonder to me. And my husband came out of a very difficult family situation himself. He was thrown out
Oh,
at 17 years old. So
no.
we made a pact when we got married. If we had children, we were going to make sure they were successful, and we didn't keep this thing going that was in our families. So
Look at
anybody
this.
can do it.
Look at this, Stephanie. What a testimony, because I bet you the marriage counselors would have said you probably, both of you would have never made it in your marriage, right?
Right.
And you would have never been able to be successful parents because you
Mhm.
didn't have that influence in your life. But look at how you can break the chains. And this is really something we want to say to our moms that are listening. You can break those chains that have
Absolutely.
been on your back or in your family. Um, with the grace of God. Look at what you've done. So you and your husband both at 15 had
Mhm.
crises and no parenting.
Well, he was 17 when he was thrown.
17. Still,
I
it's
was,
still young. I
yeah,
mean,
and
there's no,
we,
yeah,
I got married when I was 18,
yeah.
and I was married for many years, and I couldn't have had a better husband. And I helped him get through college. He had been in the Air Force for 4 years. So when we met and got married, I put him through by working as a dental assistant to get him through college at the University of California, Berkeley.
Wow. You also need to write a book, Never Give Up. Because that's really it. I think sometimes we just feel so beaten down, you just give up and you just can't. You've got to keep going and praying for strength and hope and looking for opportunities. And like you said, being resilient. But obviously, God has a plan for everyone and we just have to find it. And we can't let those strongholds hold us down.
Absolutely. And for people that don't believe in the power of prayer, let me just say it's a gradual process. It's not something you try once and say,
Mm,
I don't think that worked. It's a consistent talking to your higher power, your God, and saying, what do you think I should do now?
right.
How can I do this better?
Guide me.
Give me some information. And you'll be surprised the people that come into your life.
Yeah.
It's always, I mean, people just kept coming. As far as
Hmm.
I was concerned, people kept nurturing me. And then I
Yeah.
could nurture other people. We've got to spread this because
Yeah.
you moms are the change makers.
They are. I
They are
remember
the,
my dad saying to me when I was younger, the answers are always there. You just have to have the eyes to see them.
that's right. Takes a third eye, I think.
And you're right. I didn't mean to cut you off on that. You're right. These moms, they are the greatest influencers in their children's lives. We love our
Absolutely.
dads. They're the providers, they're protectors, but those moms are really the heartbeat of the home. And they have that high calling in there and they can't give up and they've got to stay encouraged. And that's why we do this podcast to inspire and encourage moms in their journey through motherhood. So, everyone, stay with us. We're going to be right back with Stephanie with some closing words of advice. We want to just wrap up what that Safe Kids Now network is, the resources that you have. So, stay with us, moms. We'll be right back.
What kind of America do you want to leave future generations? What do you want America to look like for your children and your grandchildren? Our nation is at a crossroads, and it will be us, the mothers of America, who will determine the future of our country. What we teach and nurture in the hearts of our children and how we vote will make all the difference. If you love God, respect life, honor family, and cherish freedom, then use your voice and be heard. We teach these values in our home. Let's secure them with our vote.
All right, Stephanie, great interview. Oh my gosh, what an amazing story. We all learned that resilience is possible in all of our lives. Teach it to our children, train them up, break those chains. But I want to just talk about your organization a little bit and the resources that they have. So tell us again, where is Safe Kids Now Network? Where do we find it? And again, some of the resources that would help our moms.
Well, all you have to do is go to safekidsnow.com. That's SAFE kids now. Don't forget the now.com. And we have a website with our books on it, which is this one, Empowerment Parenting, let's see, How to Raise Resilient Children Who Become Happy, Self-Reliant Adults. We also have one for teenagers, and this is Magical You. I want every child to know at age 12 and up that they are magical and they have the power to make their life absolutely fabulous. And we also have a free download for anybody on how to make your neighborhood safe. All you have to do is go to safekidsnow.com. And we also have the booklet, Adopt a Block.
Oh,
And
wow, right.
so we want you to take charge of your own kids' safety.
And your neighborhood.
And it starts with you in your own neighborhood, and
Yeah.
you can make a difference. Let me tell you a quick story, if I may. Do we have time?
You do. We got a couple minutes.
Okay. Barbara came into our office and she was furious because the city council had voted to put a fence all the way around her park, and she wanted her neighborhood park for the kids to play, but it had been taken over by drug dealers.
Oh
So
boy.
she was furious. She came into the crime prevention office and she told us her story. And we said, okay, now here's what we can do. Well, as a result, she got her neighbors together. They went out into the park. They started taking down license numbers, descriptions as they walked the dog, not being noticed, playing checkers, sitting reading a book. They were taking notes on the people.
I got this. Yeah.
Okay. And as a result, they had cleaned up that neighborhood within a month. Or maybe it was 6 weeks. It took a while. And as a result of that, they went back to city council and said, we cleaned up the neighborhood because we gave the police all that information. They arrested the police need information. If you
Yeah.
don't give information, they can't do anything.
Right.
The minute you take charge of your neighborhood and make it safer, that is when the police can go into action. And as a result of that, she and her neighbors went back to city council and said, we want the money that you are going to use for the fence to be used for new swing sets for the kids in the park.
I love this.
Was granted. So that's
look at what moms can do.
Moms are the best. As a matter of fact, we had more moms and they got into action. And if you want more information, email me at safeneighborhoods@gmail.com. I'll be glad to
get some
help you.
ideas on how to take back your neighborhood, right? That's where your children grow and play. So take back your neighborhoods, stay strong in parenting, and raise resilient children, and go ahead and check out Safe Kids Now Network for all of the information that you have there. Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Well, thank you for asking me to be here. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I love hearing your story and I love hearing your wisdom. So God bless you.
God bless you too. Thank you.
Well, like we said, what a resilient mama Stephanie was. Powerful story and very inspiring. Thank you again, Stephanie. All right, moms, I do want to remind you to stop by our momsforamerica.us, our website. Check out all of our information there. We've just been talking about the power of parenting, the power of moms, the influence that they have. We have incredible information at momsforamerica.us that will also help you in your journey through motherhood. So please stop by there and check out all our webinars, seminars. Check out the cottage meeting where you can teach your children the principles of liberty. Check out our blogs, our information, our upcoming events. We have it all from the kitchen table to Congress. Moms for America is here, and we provide great information for you. Sign up for our newsletter. That's how you join the movement. We'll let you know on a regular basis what we have for you as a great resource in your parenting. So moms, thanks so much for joining us. And as always, let's keep changing our country one home at a time. Thanks, and I'll see you next week.